Well, here we are, sort of live. A little bit late here, technical difficulties. First time we've ever started a race 7 laps down before the green flag even started.
I think we still have a chance now.
But we'll attribute this one to Grit Motorsports. But technical difficulties, but nonetheless, we've got a 22-minute show here. We're going to welcome you here to the Rumble Mumble, our weekly show counting down to the 22nd Annual Rumble in Fort Wayne. December 27th and 28th, presented by Jason Deach Trailer Sales. This is our 8th show already.
Yeah, it's going by really quick, and it's this week has been pretty insane. I think there's 6 weeks left now. 6 weeks left until our show, and looking forward to it. Tonight we have our special guest, previous winner, and just a whole lot of, for a young man, quite a few accomplishments already to his credit. We're in Indianapolis, and tonight we have Kyle Hamilton with us. Kyle, welcome to Rumble Mumble.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Thanks for meeting me down here. It's pretty cool. I like what you guys are doing with the show, and I like the Rumble's really gained a lot of traction over the last few years. I got a lot of buddies talking about it. It's kind of become a staple race that everybody knows happens every year, and I attribute a lot of that to your work there for getting it built up the way it is.
Well, I appreciate that, and you've just hit what everybody has said. Now, this is our 8th week, and everybody is referring to this more than a race, but as a happening or an event. And for us, it's just so intense because we have not only the midgets in which you compete, but we have the winged and non-winged 600s, 7 classes of go-karts, and the quarter midgets, 6 classes this year of a quarter midget. So it's an all-day deal, and it just goes by so fast that day that we really can't even comprehend what's going on. But we're looking forward to it. Again, I'm Larry Bose and Kyle Dager here from Grit Motorsports. Again, if you just joined us, tonight we have Kyle Hamilton with us. And I guess the first order of business is let's meet Kyle Hamilton. Let's talk a little bit. Let's do it. Yeah, let's tell us about your beginnings, how you got to where you are today.
Yep, my dad was always a big race fan, a lot of my family as well. And he got me started in the quarter midgets at a pretty young age. I actually ran the quarter midget at the Rumble a couple times in the early 2000s, and my dad was racing legend cars at the time, and he ended up giving up the racing to help out my brother and I race, and slowly worked up the ranks of open wheel, basically midgets to start out, different variations of midgets. We ran the Kenyan midgets, Ford Focus, full-size midgets, mostly on pavement, so the Rumble was kind of in my wheelhouse. And then as of late, I've moved more into sprint cars and the Pavement Silver Crown series. So it's been kind of a long progression. I started racing when I'm 8. I'm sitting at 27 now, so almost 20 years of digging at it. Some good years, some bad years, but it's all been within the open wheel variety of cars, and it's been a good time.
Obviously, you're still pretty young, but you've had a pretty impressive career so far. You've won the Little 500. You've won the Rumble before. How does winning the Rumble stack up to some of those races you won?
It stacks up really big, and it was actually the year that I won the Rumble. I didn't race much during the year leading up to it, and it was kind of a turning point in my career where were we gonna slow down? Was I gonna slow down in racing, or was I gonna take back off? And we won the Rumble, and it kind of seemed like it just kind of turned the events, and things started to go my way, and racing started to get a couple more looks, a couple more opportunities. The summer after we won the Rumble, we won the Little 500, and then that ended up getting me my ride in the Silver Crown Series. And then this year, our team won the Owners Championship in Silver Crown, and it kind of I always say, man, it's like had a good year at the Rumble that year. I got my head back on straight, and things really started to take off, and I started to become more focused as I guess more of a veteran driver. I'm still pretty young, but took a different mindset at racing after we won the Rumble and started to realize I could compete at those big events. And I always say the Rumble was what that one race that we won kind of took off from there.
Obviously, everybody that's watching is familiar with the Rumble, but just in case you aren't, the Rumble is inside. It's a temporary oval, about 1/7 of a mile in distance. It's inside the Allen County Veterans Memorial Coliseum and Expo Center in Fort Wayne. So with that being said, 1/6 of a mile, and you're talking about the Silver Crown, you're running tracks up to a mile in length. How do you translate going from a mile down to the tight confines of the Coliseum.
It's tough, and it's probably going to be tougher than ever this year. This is the first year that the entire season leading up to the Rumble I haven't ran a midget, let alone a small track. I think the smallest track we've been at is Anderson, which is a quarter of a mile. So it's tough. It's kind of like I like watching college basketball. It's like the first couple games of the season. You break a lot of shots, you run a lot of bad laps and hot laps. Getting back used to the rhythm of running on a just a split second down the straightaway, rip it around the turn and get right back on the gas. Most tracks we go to in the Silver Crown Series are multi-part turns where you have a clear entry, middle, and exit, and then a long straightaway. Where Rumble, it's kind of just one. You're turning 7-second laps. It's all kind of blends into one rotation. So getting back in that rhythm, things are moving a lot quicker. Traffic coming up on traffic a lot quicker when you're doing 7-second laps. If you're moving a half second quicker than somebody else, you're gaining on them quick, or they're gaining on you. It's just it's a different ball game for sure, and it's going to be tough this year in hot laps, getting back used to that feel. That's why I'm glad there's a practice night this year to get warmed up.
Yeah, that'll be on Thursday night, and that's open to everybody that has a pit pass. And get about 2 rounds in there if timing goes right. So that gets you about 16 laps to try to get acclimated back into the car.
Yeah, it's your first time in your midget this year, but you are probably going to run for some of the most historic car owners. What's it like running for Don and Mel Kenyan?
Don and Mel Kenyan, I mean, they're heroes of mine. When I grew up watching my dad race legend cars at the Rumble, however many years ago, I'd always root on Mel. He was kind of my driver that I always cheer for. And then got to know those guys when I ran Kenyan midgets when I was growing up, and they're legends. I mean, everybody that knows much about racing has heard of Mel Kenyan, and then I got to know Don a lot more, and kind of how he went alongside Mel coming up. I mean, they never really split up. They ran their own team, and it's really respectable to look at two guys that many consecutive years running their own team, just 2 brothers. I mean, you go out to their shop and they're just out there working away, just like anybody else when you go out there and they're in their 80s now, and it's really cool to run for them. A lot of knowledge, and I think the biggest piece that they give me running for them, knowledge-wise, is to just calm down. I mean, I've been in there so many times before I started running with them that everything's moving so fast, it's so loud, you want to make rash decisions, and you come in the pits, and Don just kind of looks at you, and you just, sit down and think about it, and then we look over what the car did in hot laps or whatever, and we move on. They're really, really chill, really easy to deal with. You feel like tensions never really rise up in those pits, and it's a good environment to be around.
I think you hit the nail on the head. Legendary car owners. Does that put any extra pressure on you or anything, knowing that you're running for the Kenyan brothers?
It puts pressure on you for sure, because if you mess that up, everybody's kind of like, how'd you mess that up? You got, a good ride, you still mess it up. But on the other hand, it does give me a little bit of a calm nature about me when I come into that race, knowing that they picked me for a reason, and they put me in this position because of the body of work I've done, and to have that trust going into the race, knowing that you're not auditioning, you're there because they think you can win, it changes your attitude as a driver. It changes from you trying to impress them to let you keep going, to just everybody doing their job. You just go out, and they hired you to drive, and they're there to work on the car, and there's really no gray area. It's just everybody knows their role, and they know they trust you, and it's a good feeling going into a big event like that. A lot more pressure. It's not a weekly show. It only happens one time a year, so to have that confidence in you going into those races is nice.
You say they chose you, did they just call you up one day, to just get the ride? Did Mel Kenyan just give you a call? Or?
Yeah, Don handles a lot of the I guess business side of things when it comes to the ride, and Don and I have known each other a long time. He's had me drive his Kenyan cars on their weekly series multiple times, so we had a relationship build up. And the Kenyan car that we raced indoors is actually a little bit different than their actual Kenyan Midget series. And he said he was trying this new chassis. He had changed it up. I mean, he hadn't changed the Kenyan spec chassis in 20 some years. And so he said he was going to change it up, and he said he had this different motor package that he wanted to run. And he said, would you mind running it, since you know how these cars feel? You and I have worked together. they don't have power steering, so he kind of knew I knew what that felt like. I drove a Kenyan car indoors several times, and so it just kind of felt like the right pick. I'm pretty close to their shop if they had any questions on getting the car set up. So it was kind of a natural thing. I mean, he had seen me run a lot. I've been a part of a series, and knows my family well. Knew that my dad and brother could be there to help out when necessary. So it all kind of worked out to where it was kind of natural for me to be able to drive for those guys.
You know, you just said the word family, and it's kind of cool that I think you and your brother Nick are the only brother combinations that have won at the Rumble. You got your win, and then the following year, Nick came in and won. Is there any like sibling rivalry or anything there?
A little bit. It started out, Nick would come watch me run the Rumble, and then when he got old enough, he decided, he wanted to start running it, and it truly has been a part of our family since I think the first year I ran it, and the Midget was 05, and we've been there pretty much every year trying to win that race, and so for us to win on back-to-back years was almost more of a weight off of our shoulders, because we, come off of Christmas telling our family that we're going to the Rumble for so many years and have, decent runs, some bad, some good, but then to finally both of us to be able to win it was great. And then now we're actually teammates for Don and Mel, so two brothers racing for two brothers is a cool aspect, and they bring really good cars to the table. Nick knows how to get around that place. We're able to trade. The cars are pretty much identical. We're able to trade feedback really easily, and I think either of us would be just as happy to see the other one in victory lane at the end of the night. We know how hard it is to get in victory lane, and we know a lot of things have to go your way. So the chances of it actually being us duking it out for the finish is actually kind of slim, but if it ever did happen, that's when the sibling rivalry might finally come out. But for the most part, it's working together.
Okay, for those of you just joining us, again, this is the Rumble Mumble, and it's where we kind of showcase the people that have participated or will be participating in the Rumble in Fort Wayne. That's coming up December 27th and 28th. Tickets are on sale now. You can purchase them through Ticketmaster or the Coliseum box office. That's reserved seating. Don't worry, there's plenty of seats available on race day, just like always. And hotels, unbelievable. Talk to the Holiday Inn. They've already filled the block that we have up there, so they've extended the rooms. And in addition to the Holiday Inn, we have a couple other hotels.
Yeah, the Ramada, as well as the Hyatt Place just down the street.
So just check out rumbleInFortWayne.com and get all the information on that. Kyle, we're in Indianapolis here talking with Kyle Hamilton. And Kyle, you've driven for some of the most iconic and legendary names in racing. And it's not only here in the Indianapolis area. Reading your Facebook page, you're running the NEMA midgets up on the East Coast. How did that develop?
Yeah, racing's kind of one of those who you've talked to. At some point down the line, I got connected with the Seymours and Frank Manafort up on the East Coast.
And that's a big name.
Yeah, and they had me come run their winged midget, and part of that had to do with I pretty much only run pavement, and luckily for me, there's not a ton of guys that are specialists on pavement, and so I kind of can jump in the car and get a pretty good feel for it pretty quick because I've raced them so much. And they had me come up to the East Coast and run the NEMA midgets quite a bit, and I ended up running their cars several times. I had some good runs, and then I ran for the Bertrands up there, who are a big team on the East Coast, and then. Like I said, all these rides that I'm talking about all kind of came after we won the Rumble that year. It's just like it's one of those things where a successful run you kind of are able to build off of those. And after we won Little 500, that was another big opportunity for me. Got my name out there a little bit to get some rides on the East Coast and then continue on in the USAC Silver Crown Series. But I've been really lucky to run for the guys I run for, and part of it has to do just with kind of being around the guys' shops here in Indianapolis. I mean, we were minutes down the road from Beast and the Kenyan shop, so it's one of those deals. Those guys like when you can come by and mingle at the shop, like when if they need to go do a quick test session or they need you to come check and see if the seat fits. It's one of those easy fits when you're right down the road, and been pretty lucky to be just right place, right time in a lot of these deals, and then it's just your job to win races at that point.
I think what's another point that I think we want to build up on a little bit here is the midgets are in the evening with the 600s, but all day long we have the quarter midgets and the go-karts, and people kind of frown a little bit about, say, the quarter midgets, but you said you raced in there, and Zeb Wise, who's really hot right now, came from the quarter midgets. The quarter midget racing at the Rumble is so far removed from the club racing. It's kind of like, you hate to use the old cliche, but it's like taking it to the next level. Yeah. Because the quarter midgets don't run on tracks that big.
No, they don't, and I actually found that out the hard way when I raced quarter midgets, got into the wall, but it was one of those things that until you run on some bigger tracks like that, you don't learn, and it is a good learning moment for the quarter midget guys, and not only that, I mean, kids running quarter midgets, kids running go-karts, even the mini sprints, they're the future of our sport. They're gonna be the next guys trying to win in the midgets. And I enjoy going out and during the day when in between hot lap sessions qualifying, watching some of the quarter midget races, watch those guys cut their teeth, because it's just a matter of time before they're kind of taking that banner and they're running with us. So I think it's really cool. You don't see too many events like that across the country, a whole weekend where you see the entry level to the veterans of the sport. Yeah. I mean, not too long ago, Mel Kenyan was running Mike Fedorchak runs every year, and you're looking at absolute legend, veteran car builders, racers of the sport on the same exact track and surface as somebody who's just starting out, and it's pretty cool to be a part of all that. You get a lot of the corner midget guys walking through the pits, and it's fun to mingle with them, fun to kind of show them the ropes, show them what to expect as they get older, and it's just a cool event all around. It's a weekend during the year that's in between Christmas and New Year's, so a lot of people are able to make it out that might not normally be able to, and it's just a good time.
It's pretty much, we take over that whole building, pit areas. Everybody has their own little pit area, and that's kind of the adventure in itself, is to come up to the Rumble and just get that pit pass and go down in the basement where if that basement could talk, I mean, it's unbelievable, because that is this pit area that the midgets used when they raced in the hockey rink up above it. And the walls down there have a lot of stories to tell. And then the 600s are back in the back, and then the midgets. You talk about bringing the car in the pits. It's not like bringing in the pits at Anderson or anything like that, right, because you don't have a pit. You've got like a 10 by 10 square.
Yeah, each person's got basically a little garage bay that they use to work out of all weekend, and that's another one of the unique aspects of it. You become real friendly with your neighbors because you're tripping over each other's tools, and been in a couple cases where you get into one of your neighbors and then they're not too happy with you. So it's just one of those fun events that every year that you talk about the walls being able to talk in the basement. That's the stories I hear from Mel. He likes to talk about the old days of Fort Wayne, and he says and he can always trump my story if I tell him, well, I got in a little deep and it got a little loose, and he's like, well, what about the time, when I was, and he can always hit you with a better story of the Rumble in Fort Wayne, and it kind of makes me feel like I haven't really seen much when you're dealing with guys that have been racing indoors since they were the young guys, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool, like you said, walking through the whole building, and they're literally, the Rumble takes over the whole Coliseum, and the carts and the quarter midgets, and we have a lot of several new drivers, Rumble rookies this year.
Yeah, the midget field has really grown every year, and we're starting to get some complaints now from the veterans that there's too many cars. And I say, well, let's think about the Chili Bowl, where you have 360 midgets going for 24 spots. Yeah. Making the field, we've been averaging about 40 midgets a year, and the starting field is 14, I believe. We might have gone up to 16, but still. So, like, one out of every other car isn't going to make the field. And
yeah, that's no matter how many times I've been there, good years I've had, bad years I've had, mission number one, get the car in the race. You can make moves from there, but when you start thinking about the race before you get in, that's when you get in trouble in a heat race. That's when you jump wheels in a B main, and you're the one sitting on the outside. Mission number one, every time you go in that place, when you're looking around the pits, there's 40 cars, and you're looking at the math. It's not easy to get in. I mean, it's just not, like you said, every other car's not going to make it in. You're looking at some really good guys that aren't going to be in that feature. So that's your first goal, is do what it takes to get in the race, then let things shake out from there, because it's one of the most competitive fields when you're going for that small of a number of guys that are going to be in it.
Small is a big word because a seventh of a mile, the straightaways are only about 35 feet wide, and it's on concrete, which you'd think concrete of asphalt. Well, it's far removed from asphalt in that it's more like a dirt track in that you never know what you're going to have when you go out there. You know, you may go out in hot laps and you have enough rubber down there that it peels your shoes off when you walk on it, and the next time you go out there, it's back down to the bare concrete.
Yeah, it's one of the weirdest sensations running on that type of track, especially when we only do it about once a year. Like you said, sometimes depending on how different cars are going on the track, temperature, the outside air, more rubber will stick sometimes. Sometimes it's really bare concrete and it's really slick, and it's pretty unique. That's one thing I like about running for Don and Mel Kenyan. I feel like they've built a car that's pretty competitive on any surface, and that's something I've seen some guys struggle with in the past. They'll be 2/10 quicker than you at some point in the day, but then you'll be passing them later in the day because their car doesn't handle on certain types of track. So it's always nice going into there knowing you got a pretty balanced car, but it is something you're always guessing on because there might be a 3-hour gap after you practice to when you qualify, and you're looking at the track. It visibly looks the same, but it doesn't quite handle the same, and you only got 2 laps to qualify well on it, and it's just constant.
Well, speaking of that, we are looking at we're discussing it. It's not concrete yet. Oh, that's a play on words there, but. We're looking at going to transponders this year and timing your hot laps.
Okay.
Doing away from the 2-lap qualifying again because it's such a long day, and we're looking at ways to shorten the program, make it a little bit more exciting. And a lot of guys can hot lap faster than they can qualify.
Yeah.
So what we would do is put the transponders on the cars, and every time you're on the track, you'll get timed, and then your fastest time throughout the day would be your qualifying time.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. Like you said, there's a few factors you're fighting there. Sometimes you're fighting, like I said, a long day for both the workers and the drivers. So to get times in qualifying would definitely be good. It keeps everybody in a rhythm as well.
This is the joke every week. I don't know how to turn the timer off. So there we go. Anyways, we'll just turn it over there. Nobody will hear it. But we're going to go a few more minutes because obviously a lot of people are just going to watch us during the week. Kyle, we talked a lot about your racing career and everything, but another milestone here just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, just tied the knot, got married October 25th, and so the Rumble will be my first race as a married man, and my car owner, Don and Mel, and Bob East were at the wedding, and I was going around talking to everybody, and they said, so we kind of got to ask you, are you coming back? Are you still racing? I said, yeah, I'm still on board. But yeah, we signed a long-term loan there.
And you look at your Facebook page, and you have another love called Purdue.
Yeah,
what's the story on this?
I went to school there, and it's just always been kind of this Purdue basketball has always been my winter escape. I mean, I just love the team. I love what Matt Painter does, and it's when you're racing, when you're an actual race car driver, you don't really get to experience the fan side of things. You're kind of immersed in it. So Purdue's kind of I'm just a super fan. I just like to watch. I watch every game, cheer them on, try to go to as many games as I can, and I actually do compare a lot of the preparation that goes into a basketball season to what goes into a race week. I try to draw a lot of parallels there because I feel like there is a lot, professionals and high level coaches in basketball prepare just the same as a high level car owner or driver, and it's just kind of something I've always liked to follow, both racing and basketball.
Do you get a lot of coaching from the Kenyans or the East or anybody?
Yeah, both Mel Kenyan and Bob East are exceptionally good driver coaches, and I'm lucky to have worked for both of them at the Rumble in Fort Wayne. I mean, the year we won, actually, Mel, I was struggling with the same thing all day. I was getting into the corner a little deep, and then the car was breaking free, and we were just 2/10 off. No matter how we cracked it, when we picked up 2/10, everybody else picked up 2/10, and Mel just comes up and he says, "You need to back up your entry," kind of like it was obvious, and it's just, when you're in the car, it's just not obvious to you because things are happening so quick. But to have somebody that can watch from the outside and tell you exactly what we need to do, and the same thing happens. I mean, I tell everybody when I'm doing the Silver Crown car, I mean, Bob East is one of the greatest driver coaches when it comes to those cars that I've ever worked with. I mean, somebody who can tell you exactly what you need to do as a driver, and if I'm sharp enough to pick up on what he's saying and do it, we always get faster. I mean, one of our best stories is the year before last, 2018. We went to IRP Raceway Park with a certain setup on the car, and we got lapped 3 times. It's just horrible. I mean, one of my worst races. We go back this year, 2019, exact same setup, totally different driving style, and we win the race. And I have to say, it was all the way I was driving into the corner, the way I was carrying my center speed, and Bob can, from the infield, he can see exactly where I'm struggling, and he acknowledges that he understands why I'm struggling. That's one thing you kind of need as a driver. They know what you're feeling. Guys like Bob and Mel, they're like, yeah, I know why you're doing what you're doing, but here's what I need you to do to make it better. And it makes a big difference. And I've been lucky to deal with guys like that. And on the other hand, you kind of feel bad for guys that haven't got to experience that. But it's kind of the competitive edge you have when you drive for those guys. That's kind of how you win some races and keep moving on in the sport.
Do you guys ever butt heads? Like, you're saying the car's doing one thing, but they're like, I've been there, done that. It's doing this.
Every now and then you do have that, but most times I'm smart enough to realize I'm not very smart in the grand scheme of things. And like I said, they've hired me to drive that car, and if they've got something that they think is going to work, it's my job to go out and drive what they give me as best I can. And 9 times out of 10 we go faster with their word than mine.
Hi, we're going to wrap this up here. Again, this is the Rumble Mumble, and hopefully live next week. It's every Thursday, 7:22, and we never know who our guest is going to be. Kyle, we thank you for coming on board. It's been great. That's what we want to do, is get people to know the drivers, not so much promote the event, but learn about the drivers.
Yeah.
And you've given some great insight here. So one last question. What's the forecast for this year's Rumble?
Well, going to go in there just like we do every year and try to get as many consistent laps as we can, hot laps, and looking good for it.
Kyle, any last questions?
Nope. Just make sure to tune in next week, like you said, 7:22. Hopefully 7:22 every week. But we'll see you December 27th and 28th this year at the 22nd Annual Rumble at Fort Wayne.